Hello again. All right, well, it's history time. So take out your history books. We're going to review just a little bit before we go to our next. We're going to do our comprehension check from Amelia Earhart, but we're also going to review some other things that we've talked about. So we started off this grouping of chapters because there will be a test. I believe it's next Tuesday. Let me just double check. Yes. So next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, is going to be your test in here. So over chapters 39 through 42. So be aware of those things. So 39 with Jim and Elizabeth Elliot. So we talked about the fact that what was Jim Elliot not afraid to do as a child? He wasn't, or as a young person, he wasn't afraid to go to school and tell the gospel to people. He carried his Bible around. He told people about the Lord. Very good. What could he tell about Elizabeth when he met her? Where did he meet her? Christian college. What could he tell about her? That she loved God more than anything else. Why did she study Greek when she was in college? Because she wanted to translate the Bible. Where did Jim Elliot end up going with one of his friends? They went to Ecuador, and then Elizabeth, they got married, and she joined him there. And what was one of the first things that they did? Well, not one of the first things, but what was one of the things that they did? They translated the Bible into the Quechua language because they were working with the Quechua Indians in Ecuador. What was the fierce tribe that they wanted to reach? We know it's the Auca Indians, the Aucas. What did they do? What was one of the things that they did to start getting into Auca territory? Well, first they had a friend that had what? A plane so he could fly over, and they dropped gifts down to show their friend that they were going to be friendly with the Auca Indians, and they were dropping gifts. And then eventually what happened? The Aucas sent a gift back to them, and finally Jim Elliot and his 4 other friends went to that one of the beaches there with the where the Auca Indians lived, right on the edge of their village, and got to meet them for the first time, got to see them face to face. The 2 ladies that were there had dinner with them, and then went back off into the to the village. But they thought, well, we're getting not a head start, but we're getting an in with these Auca Indians, and so this is a blessing. But what ended up happening? The Auca Indian men, they did end up coming and killing Jim Elliot and his 4 other friends. So all 5 of those men were lost there. But what did Elizabeth Elliot do? Right, she stayed in Ecuador so that she could reach. The Auca Indians also finished translating the Bible in the Quechua language. So many things that we talked about with Jim and Elizabeth Elliot. Then we talked about Dwight Eisenhower. What was his nickname? Ike. Very good. And that was after his last name. And he and his brother were kind of both. There was Big Ike and Little Ike, and he was Little Ike. Where did he go to college? West Point Military Academy. Couldn't afford to go to a regular college because he didn't have the money, so he helped his parents put one of his brothers through college. But he was able to go to West Point Military Academy because the military would pay for his education there. So he was able to go there, and after he went there, he became very well known in the world wars because he was a general, he was a major, made some amazing plans and different things as he was there, making a difference in World War I and World War II. Top commanding officer for the United States, remember we said. Then after the World Wars, what did he do? He became president of Columbia University. Very good. But then he was asked a very important question. Would you like to become president of the United States? And he's like, sure, sounds good. And he did. He wanted to become president of the United States. And so he started a slogan, I like Ike, and that people knew very well. And he won that campaign and he became the president of the United States, not once, but twice. He served for 2 terms and made some really great strides in America. What were some of the things? Go ahead, shout. There's so many. NASA, Alaska and Hawaii, the 1957 giving African Americans the right to vote. What was I going to say next? Oh my goodness. Putting, signing into law, One Nation Under God, or In God We Trust as the motto. All of those things that we could attribute to his presidency. So make sure to know about him. And then we talked about Amelia Earhart. Well, I'm not going to go through all of those review parts because we're going to go through the comprehension check, which kind of gives a basic overview. So you were supposed to number the statements in order from first to last. What was the very first thing that you marked? Should have been number 2, should have been number 1. Amelia went to the World's Fair and discovered her love for adventure. That's the first thing. Then number 2 was down number 5. Amelia Earhart went to Canada and helped nurses during World War I. That's where she was getting the idea, I should probably think about maybe being a nurse or a doctor so I could help out. I could be a nurse and help out people. But she knew it was going to take a while and a lot of schooling, but she didn't have the money. So what was number 3? Number 3 is number 3. Amelia's father took her to an air show where she saw planes doing stunts, and that's where she said, I want to be a pilot. I want to learn to fly. What's number 4? That is number 6. George Putnam asked Amelia Earhart to be the first woman passenger to fly across the Atlantic Ocean. Number 5 is number 4. Amelia Earhart made the first woman solo flight across the Atlantic Ocean. And then number 6, Amelia Earhart did not land on Howland Island and was never found. So hopefully you remember those things about Amelia Earhart. Go back through, read through that chapter, but then also review chapters 39 and 40. So reviewing Jim and Elizabeth Elliot, Dwight Eisenhower, Amelia Earhart, and now we're on chapter 42, Martin Luther King Jr. He was born in 1929 and died in 1968. So let's find out about this man and his life. So the King family. Michael King Jr. was born in 1929. His parents soon changed his name to Martin Luther King Jr. to honor the famous Christian leader Martin Luther from Germany. So he started off as Michael King, and then his parents thought, no, that leader, Martin Luther, he was very well known in what he was doing in Germany. They wanted to name him after that famous Christian leader. So they changed his name from Michael King Jr. to Martin Luther King Jr. Martin grew up in Atlanta, Georgia with his brother and sister. He played baseball and basketball, flew kites, and rode bicycles with his neighborhood friends. Like many other boys, Martin had a job delivering newspapers. His mother taught each of her children how to play the piano. Martin and his family went to church every week. His father and grandfather were both preachers, and they hoped that Martin would someday be a preacher too. So it was just in his family. His dad's a preacher, his granddad's a preacher, and they're thinking, hopefully Martin will be that as well. Martin goes to college. This is interesting. Look at this very carefully. Martin attended school in Atlanta, Georgia, and graduated from high school when he was only 15 years old. Okay, so 15 is about the age of some of our sophomores, maybe juniors, but like between 9th and 10th grade, that's that age of 15, okay? So, and you guys have to think, you're only 7 years away, maybe some of you even 6 years away from being 15. Can you imagine in 6 years going off to college? already. But at 15 years old, he graduated from high school. He decided to attend Morehouse College, a well-known college for African American students in Atlanta. His father and grandfather had also gone to this college. Even though they were older, Martin's classmates looked up to him. He's 15 years old, and he's in college with 19, 20, 21-year-old people, and they're like, wow, I want to be like Martin when I grow. Well, I mean, I am more grown than he, but I just want to be like him. He's a great guy. He's got a great head on his shoulders. So they looked up to him, even though they were older than he is. He will make a fine leader someday, they said. They saw it right there. Martin graduated from Morehouse in 1948 with the highest grades in his class. The youngest student probably there, but ended up with the highest grades in his class. He decided to study to be a pastor and moved to Massachusetts, where he attended Boston University. Martin Luther King Jr. graduated in 1955 with a doctorate degree when he was only 25 years old. Okay. Now, again, that you might not get that feeling, but you have to understand people graduate from college at 21, 22, and then they go on for 4 more years. So if you're 21, 22, you're about 25, 26 years old, and then you graduate from getting your master's, and then you usually have to go 4 more years or more to get your doctorate. And he did that by the time he was 25. That's pretty incredible. All right, some important words to recognize. First of all, at the bottom, and important names. Segregated means separated by race or skin color. Boycott means to refuse to do business with a company in order to bring about change. So you're just not going to do business to help to maybe make them think and to bring about a change. Civil rights are privileges guaranteed to every citizen by the United States Constitution. Important names, obviously, Martin Luther King Jr. He was a pastor, so he did become what his dad and grandpa hoped, who worked to pass laws in the United States for equal treatment of all people, no matter the color of their skin. And then Rosa Parks is a seamstress who refused to give up her seat on the bus. Now we look and we're like, so what's the big deal about that? Well, as we read through, you're going to see what the big deal was and why it was such something very important back then to recognize and know. Okay. So, family and church, page 417. While Dr. King was in Boston, he met and married Coretta Scott. Later, they moved to Montgomery, Alabama, where he became a pastor of a church. They had 4 children. During this time, many African Americans were not treated fairly in our country. In some parts of the country, African Americans were segregated or separated from white people. On buses, African Americans had to sit in the back. So if I were to have gotten on a bus back during Martin Luther King Jr.'s time, if there was an empty seat in the front, I wouldn't be able to sit there. I would have to walk all the way to the back of the bus just because of the color of my skin. There were certain places in restaurants where African Americans had to eat. So you couldn't just eat anywhere. They would have specific tables, off to the side, in the back, somewhere that wasn't with everyone else. Restrooms and drinking fountains were also separated. If you lived in the United States during segregation, even the school you attended would be determined by your skin color. Just another interesting little fact, my mom, I remember her telling me that when they were younger, I can't remember what age, but I know my mom and my grandpa and one of the sisters, I'm not sure if my mom's from a family of 6, but the 2 boys hadn't been born yet, I don't believe, but she had, there were 4 girls, but she just was telling me about her and one of her sisters with my grandpa. They went down to Washington, D.C. to actually hear Martin Luther King Jr. speak and give his famous speech. And when they went down, they're from Connecticut, so they weren't used to some of the things that were so strong down and going as you got farther south. And my aunt apparently went to go drink at a water fountain because she was thirsty. And my grandpa was like, Teresa, you can't do that. You cannot go and drink it. That's white only. And he was so afraid because he knew that something could happen. Somebody could complain, or somebody could start, a fight or a problem. So he warned her, do not do that. There's certain places that you can drink, and there's certain places to go to the restroom. And she's like, well, I don't understand that, Dad. Like, that's not right. That's not fair. And he said, we know, but that's the way it is. So it was something that is very, we can't seem to understand it now, but even my mom remembers moments like that from when she was younger. But even the school that you attended would be determined by the color of your skin. So many of you, I wouldn't even be able to teach you if that were still the same thing. So thankfully, things turned around and changed, and so we can, all be together, and it's not about color, skin color. It's just about who we are and as people. And really, what does the skin color matter? Because underneath all of that, we're all the same. And what matters to the Lord is our heart. It's not the outside. Remember, God looks at the heart. Although this was a very troubled time for the United States, Dr. King taught his children and his church members many wise things. He said that they should always find a peaceful way to solve problems. He said, let no man pull you so low as to hate him. And what a great phrase that is, because even though there were people that were being terribly mistreated, he looked at people and he said, no, we're not going to show hatred. We're not going to fight. We're not going to, push back. We're going to show love through it all. Don't let anybody pull you so low as to try to bring hate to you, allowing you to hate them, because that's not a healthy thing. So we'll find out some more about Martin Luther King Jr. tomorrow. Stay tuned. But it's definitely very interesting things that we're going to be learning about. So we'll see you in the next video. See you soon.